Hi everyone, Brandon Lovejoy here with Minnesota Blockchain Initiative, and this is the MNblockchain Conversations podcast from right here at the Quantum Lex studio at the Quantum Lex Law Firm in Minneapolis. Today I sit down with Brandon Lovejoy. Brandon is a Minnesotan, and he's also the head of community relations for the EOS Foundation. Now, those of us who've been in the space for a little while recall that EOS was from way back in the 2017-2018 ICO boom, and they are perhaps the most well-known because they were the one that raised the most money. And with that came some conflict. The founders used some of that money to work on side projects, and the community of the EOS community itself was wanting more of those resources put back into the blockchain. Eventually, it came to a head where the community itself would take control over the EOS blockchain, and so that's where the EOS Foundation came from, and now Brandon's role there. Brandon's been around the whole time through this transition and journey, and we talk about that journey then. But more important, we then look at what is happening today. Perhaps the most famous has been the development of the market for RAM that you can buy on the EOS chain. But there are some games, there are some other community developments that Brandon went into detail about. We talk about these quite a bit in addition to the whole EOS story. So for a great story in this always changing, always dramatic industry, as well as a look into the future of what this particular chain is up to, enjoy this conversation with Brandon Lovejoy. All right, Brandon, thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm here with Brandon Lovejoy. He is I wrote this down,
You'll be tested.
Head of Community Relations for the EOS Foundation.
That's right.
That sounds like an important title.
Well, it's just a title, but I've been in it for a long time, and so I'm very connected to the community, very connected to everybody in the entire ecosystem, so someone's got to keep an eye on all the moving parts and people. And
EOS is kind of legendary. It's got a reputation. It's an OG. It's an old school.
Yeah.
Like it's what, generation 2? If Bitcoin is generation 1, you'd call it generation 3.
Yeah, because Ethereum would be like your V2.
Okay,
so
got it.
Came the EOS.
But 3 is pretty old too. No, it's like 2017.
Oh yeah, 2018 is when the blockchain launched. In June of 2018.
Okay. Yeah, set me straight here. I might be getting my ears a little off. It's just that in this space, anything seems like before, anything from 2018 is...
It's ancient.
It's 6 years.
Yeah, it's 6 long years.
That's like a quarter of most people's lives that are in this space.
Oh my God, don't say that. I'll feel really old.
But seriously, so this is cool because EOS is a very, very well-known chain, especially to those who've been in the space a while, and it's had its headlines for good reasons and bad, and it's still strong, and it's reinvented itself. And so to have the head of community relations here in Minnesota is pretty cool.
Yeah, because
we can then just find out really what's happening with this. I don't know what the market cap is now for EOS. Is it top 30, 50?
No, we're like I think we're like 80 or 70, somewhere in there right now.
A top 100 market cap project. And to have you here in Minnesota is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's just talk all about it. I don't know. Do you kind of want to kick us off with how you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So, like you said, EOS has kind of reinvented itself. Most people are familiar with the year-long token sale, the ICO that launched EOS back when EOS was originally under the tutelage, can I use that word, of Block One. They were the original publishers of the EOS.io software.
Yeah.
And it was the network or the community that launched the network, a decentralized network of block producers all over the world. The network went live in June of 2018. And
what was its, maybe you're going to get this, but what was its angle? Like, what was its promise?
EOS was really built for enterprise. It was a lot of earlier chains had this like, how do I say this? Some of the gaps that I think EOS was trying to solve were like a lot of the stuff that you hear most of these layer one chains throw out there, like scalability and throughput and all that stuff. EOS was kind of built as a third gen blockchain that was effectively able to scale and to do like high throughput transactions, so that you could run an application, decentralized application, directly from the blockchain as the back end, instead of having to rely on a scaling solution and stuff like that. So, at the time when EOS was launched, Ethereum was kind of the main smart contract application platform out there. So EOS was attempting to kind of move the needle a little further along. And since then, we've seen Ethereum now has made some changes to their underlying protocol and become both faster and cheaper also, as well as a whole new crop of third generation blockchains have since also come out in the intervening years. Right. So, yeah, enterprise, I think, was the original intention, and to that extent, or by that metric, EOS really succeeded. And where we've been playing catch up is with a lot of the middleware, a lot of the tooling for developers to access and utilize this really powerful blockchain. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself now.
All right. And do you think it was that promise of blockchain for enterprise, and or the fact that it was like the first ICO that made its ICO so popular? Like a chance for everyone to get in at the ground level?
Yeah, I mean, they did a year-long ICO. That was kind of a new concept at the time. It was a reverse Dutch auction, so it was a very weird sort of thing. And yeah, a lot of people were able to get in over a whole year to become original EOS token holders. That definitely caught a lot of people's attention, as you pointed out, or maybe, I don't know if you did, it was the largest ICO in history. I think it still is, $4.1 billion. But what most people don't realize is that money never really went to the EOS network, by and large. I mean, some of it did through hackathons and other cool stuff that B1 did in the early days.
B1?
Block One. Yep. The original founding entity. But by and large, that money was not available for the network. Basically, EOS had this like long running sort of slow grind period where B1 wasn't really coming through for a lot of things. The EOS network, and the EOS network was kind of struggling to like have the resources it needed to do a lot of the things it needed to do. Their focus was seemingly elsewhere on enterprise applications that they were developing, such as the Bullish Exchange or the social media product Voice. And
so some of that money went to that.
Yeah, went all sorts of different places, and we don't need to get into all that, but suffice it to say that the EOS community eventually just decided to kind of take matters into their own hands, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is how the EOS Network Foundation came into existence. Was we parted ways with Block One in 2018. After the launch of the EOS Network Foundation, most of the engineers joined the foundation that were the original developers of the software, and forked the code base, which had been archived and wasn't being maintained. We forked the code base into what we branded Antelope. So we went from EOS.io. If you see EOS.io everywhere, that's the old version of the software that's not being maintained anymore. And then Antelope was the first one. So originally it was Antelope 2.1 or something like that. Now we're up to Antelope 5, Leap 5. So Leap is the C++ implementation of the software. Antelope's the protocol. And
I thought you were using A for Antelope, B for boa constrictor. It's not like that.
No, Antelope's just here to stay. It's the main brand of the software.
Yeah, that's a ton of money. The money raised from the ICO. And so are people still skittish about it because they say, oh no, you guys are the ones that had that had those big high-profile crypto guys take all the money and run. And
I get all sorts of reactions when I go to conferences. A lot of people don't even know what EOS is anymore because they entered the space after all that. And
sure.
Those people are great because I have a clean slate to work with. Then there's a smaller percentage. I would say the minority of people have kind of a dim view of EOS because of the connection with Block 1 of the ICO and whatever they perceive to have happened with all that. And then there's another subsection of people that are like, oh, EOS. I think you were kind of in this category. You're like, EOS, what's going on with EOS? I remember something, but I don't really know the full story.
Yeah.
So
I didn't take part in the ICO, but I remember owning it like in 2018, 2019. But that was just buying a lot of various tokens because it was fun.
Yeah.
And I had some EOS, and I didn't hear much about it, and I started hearing a lot more about other chains, whether it be Ethereum layer 2s or side chains or all new chains like Solana. And so, EOS was not getting the headlines, and so I thought, which is kind of silly, I suppose. It must be gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't go. It's still got a huge market cap. I am kind of wondering where dead chains go to die, especially when they're in the top, however, like 200 or something.
I know.
And they've got $100 million in market cap. Like, that's a lot of value wrapped up in those tokens.
Yeah.
You know?
Even right.
So anyway, I was glad to meet you, and I remember you came to one of our events, and I was just curious, like, the EOS Foundation, like, first it's a foundation, so are you like giving grants out? Are you doing humanitarian projects? What's going on here? And so it's been good to get to know you and find out a lot more about it, and to share it now with the world on this podcast. So
yeah, likewise. So I mean, one of the big things that we do contend with now is just this misperception that the network has a large war chest. We never really did. The network was kind of, we had sort of a managing entity that was supposed to be doing a lot of that work. And then when the EOS Network Foundation took over, originally the network launched with 5% annual inflation. So it's like a compounding annual inflation on the total token supply. And just to set this up for later, when we discuss the new tokenomics, the original max supply of EOS, which nobody even really knew about, including myself, up until quite, several months ago, was 10 billion max cap supply. EOS launched with $1 billion, and then it was adding, that originally 5%, then it got reduced down to, I think 1% for just block production. And then when the EOS Network Foundation came back in line, 2% was allocated for the foundation. So we had this slow drip of inflation with which to conduct business on the blockchain and try to do all the things that a foundation would normally do. Most blockchains launch with a foundation. EOS had to kind of pull a foundation out of the community and create it after the fact without a treasury. So it's been an uphill battle, but we have a very tenacious and really resilient and resourceful community that is not just English speaking. Also, we have a really substantial Chinese speaking community, like big Korean community, all over Europe and then North America as well. So it's been a haul, but we're starting to see some progress. We'll get into it a little bit more, but in recent times we've completely there's been a bit of the takeover turned into a bit of a revolution, and now EOS has introduced a whole new tokenomics. There's a X amount of income coming in that is affected by the token price, and then there's X amount of work that needs to get done just to maintain the hardware and the software and make sure everything is up and running. And as the amount of effort increases, like your cost drops. Like you're not getting compensated for additional effort that you put in for the network. So that's going to change, which is really cool, coming up with the new tokenomics. But But back in the day, it was just like, well,
I'm just struck by how this was created out of, I won't say thin air, but it was, one could say, oh yeah, it is, it's crypto, it's a lot of thin air. But, and some do say that, but what I mean by that is you had to build it from nothing, right? Because there were no crypto projects like years and years ago.
When EOS launched, it was still very early days.
Yeah. Like they had to come up with this stuff. Again, like Henry Ford had to come up with how to build a car. It was just from scratch.
Well, again, we had 2 generations of previous Dan Larimer created blockchains to lean on, and then a really talented team of engineers that came together under Dan at Block One that originally put the EOS.io software as we originally knew it together. And then many of those same extremely brilliant people are now with the foundation, including Bart Wyatt, who's our CTO, who was one of the senior engineers and one of the top code contributors at the time. And Arek Harapetian, he's our director of engineering. He's the one that's currently working on this new consensus algorithm we're about to release called Savannah, which is really cool. So EOS is going to actually launch a completely new consensus algorithm that the world has never seen before. And that's tentatively scheduled for end of July. It may get pushed back into August. We'll see.
So was the evolution of it like the founder, Larimer, was like, hey, BitShares and Steemit, these are pretty niche specific blockchains for a specific purpose. Let's then build on this to create a grand
general purpose blockchain.
Layer 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Originally, if I understand correctly, the thought even was to turn Steem into a general purpose blockchain, because it could have been, but there was conflict there, and they wanted to keep it like single serving, single purpose, and not lose that focus. And then so Dan moved on and teamed up with the Block One crew, and EOS was essentially born.
Right. So when it comes to the money raised and all that, like what's the general attitude amongst, so you said different people come up to you from the outside, like myself, I had my own perspective, newcomers had never heard about the drama, and then some people are like, we all have our different reactions to it. Well, what's the team thinking? Like, is there still some, like distraction, or not distraction, but some attention paid toward that, because it's still something that you're spending time trying to recoup, or I don't know, do anything like that? Or is it like, that's in the history, we're looking ahead?
Yeah, we've moved on. It comes up from time to time, but by and large, all of our efforts, we're very self-sufficient. We have a incredible community. Since the EOS Network Foundation launched, we've also seen the launch of EOS Labs, which is a separate organization within the network dedicated for business development and other project-focused enterprise stuff. So we've got multiple entities now servicing the network, essentially. With the new tokenomics passing, we've also got the Gray Mass team leading up UX, UI development. We've kind of just taken matters into our own hands, and we're not sitting around feeling sorry for ourselves or any of that. It's a really resilient and extraordinary community that just kind of refuses to give up. So, and we've got just a really incredible tech stack and a great community. So I think from our vantage point, although it has been a heavy lift, and it continues to be, a pretty heavy lift, it's not insurmountable, and we feel pretty confident, I think, in what we're doing, and the fact that EOS is going to, we feel, reemerge as one of the premier layer 1 blockchains out there. We've got all the right ingredients. We just lost a few steps in the confusion and the chaos that resulted from this vacuum of power, essentially, and vacuum of development energy.
Yeah.
But we've made huge strides. So let me just give a little backstory leading up to like how we got to the new tokenomics proposal.
Well, what's the status of the any lawsuits or any of that? Is it all done, or is there still pending stuff that you're trying not to focus on because it's not helping with development? Or
as far as I know, there was a lawsuit from a certain class of or ICO token holders.
Yep.
That I believe right now is in the phase of them receiving their payout.
Oh, okay.
There have been other future actions theorized, but to my knowledge, I don't know anything like that's going on right now.
Yeah.
We're just kind of focused on building. If there's anything legal happening, I'm not really part of that discussion.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
I think the energy and the effort is mostly on focusing on what we can do right now. Even if there was legal, stuff, it would take so many years to play out that you wouldn't be able to. It's not like we can wait.
Uh-huh.
We can't wait around for any of that.
Right.
It's like any settlement to like help us out, as we don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So blockchain time is on no one's side. So you can't rest. You can't really stop for a moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. You said, our focus is on moving things forward. So let's go there. So what were you saying before I asked that question about kind of the roadmap or the lead up to the new tokenomics?
Well, so, when the foundation came into existence, we funded a whole series of blue papers. These were basically like research papers that different teams of people from within the ecosystem and adjacent ecosystems, because EOS runs on the same tech as several other kind of adjacent blockchains like Telos and Wax and UX Network.
Say that last part again.
Telos.
No, EOS what? EOS works.
Oh, EOS is running on the same software stack.
Oh, okay.
Antelope as these other blockchains.
Okay.
So for a time that we're kind of banded together, and the blue papers that were funded by the EOS network from this original, funds from, excuse me while I readjust myself here, resulted in a lot of really good work being done that was desperately needed. And one of those things was the WRF kit, so the SDKs or software development kits. We were pretty much missing any functional SDKs. So if you wanted to, as a developer, interact with the blockchain, you just had to figure it out on your own. There wasn't a lot of great documentation.
Okay.
There wasn't...
what does SDK stand for? Software
Development Kit.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that middle layer between just the raw, C++ power of the blockchain and everybody else in terms of like, how do I interact with this? What are the APIs? Where, what are the toolkits for me to like do contracts, or I can't remember all the different kits that they built, but so WRF kit was built, and that's been a huge monumental accomplishment. That was done by the Greymass team. They were the original wallet developer for EOS. They've developed EOS Voter, which turned into Anchor Wallet.
Okay.
A lot of people remember Scatter. Scatter was also a wallet, but it's no longer maintained. But the person that developed Scatter is now on our team as the director of developer relations. That's Nathan James. He's one of our MVPs, and so we got a lot of talent in house. But essentially, the toolkit, all the tools that you need to build on EOS are there now. So this is the first moment in history, really, and that's only like 3 months ago that I think that WRF kit was finally rolled out as complete. So that's pretty cool. So we really have a stack now, which we never had before. Early projects, like we have Upland, built on EOS. They're a huge metaverse gaming app, one of the top gaming apps out there using blockchain. but they had to build everything themselves from scratch. They had to figure out how to interact with the blockchain and develop all their own tools. They built their own SDKs to interact with the blockchain because it was the only blockchain at the time that they could even use to do what they wanted to do. So they were motivated. But that's,
because they started a while ago.
Yeah, Upland has been around as long as EOS has, pretty much. Like, I think maybe like a little bit after, but yeah. I mean, you still find that today because of the flexible permission structures and all the kind of nuances of EOS, including the capacity and everything, and low cost for transactions. It's been kind of the go-to for developing. The only thing standing in people's way is the lack of tools. So we've addressed that. And then along with that, like IBC, inter-blockchain communications. So we've got horizontal scalability now, where you can spin up a side chain, theoretically. So we're headed towards kind of an infinitely scalable
And are you
future.
building these tools based on what you hear developers demanding and wanting, or are you just kind of saying, yeah, we'll build these and they'll come?
Well, I mean, the toolkit is, I would say, like, so Aaron Cox, he's the CEO or a chief brain, I think is his title at Greymass. And he's one of the leading developers on EOS, so he's dog fooding. So anything that he needs to build, I mean, that's what directed, and his team, the team at Greymass, like, kudos to them as well, like, incredible team of people. But
and how is Greymass affiliated with EOS?
They've just been long time diehard contributors and BPs. They have a BP as well that they run.
Block producer.
Yeah, for the network.
Okay.
And
but they do other stuff.
Yeah, like
they're not just EOS's developers. They do other.
Right. Well, the wallet, Anchor wallet, they built, and before that it was called EOS Voter, like I mentioned. And yeah, Aaron is just one of these people that's just been contributing since forever, since Genesis, and since before Genesis. So if there's, yeah, I mean, there's not much he hasn't touched. I guess when it comes to like the deeper level, consensus level engineering, that's not his focus. He's more on like the application side. But yeah, they've been really involved. And so, I mean, to answer your question, like, all the tooling and all this stuff was developed by an application developer who, is now using those tools to build applications. So he's kind of dog fooding the tools that he made, and the Wharf Kit community. So
it's like I could use that, so I'm going to build that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aaron's a great like case study because he's been building the tools in order to build the house for so long, and he's finally getting. They're building a game now. They're building a game that uses the term is going to escape me. It's the game's called Shipload, and they're building this really cool. It's like a space trading game, and it's using EOS as the back end essentially. But it's abstracting away the blockchain entirely, so you don't even really need to know anything about blockchain to play the game. They're doing a really sweet job of that, from what I can tell so far. They're really close, but in fact, by the time this interview comes out, the first playable version of Shipload might be out. And this will be essentially one of the core application developers who built all the tools to build applications on EOS, launching a game using all those tools to kind of like eat their own dog food and show what's possible.
It's like a scientist testing it out on himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And those never go wrong. Never in the movies.
Okay, well, maybe it's a bad analogy then.
That makes for great drama.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think Aaron is full well expecting things to go wrong. He's taking a very like develop out in the open approach. So the first iterations of the game, he's like, yeah, I can't wait to see the first person like get stuck on the game board and like their ship just get bricked essentially, and not be able to. But they're gonna just keep building out in the open. And I think the first game will. What's the term I'm looking for? It's generative. It's like it's where you generate the world based on like algorithm instead of it's not like a map. I mean, it's a big world, right? So you can't just like hand make the world. You have to like have the world be generated spontaneously by certain rules.
So it's not like Grand Theft Auto where it's
populated with certain like areas. No, people can build, I think, and like maintain like bases and things in certain areas, but it's like a really massive world. God, I can't remember the term. It's escaping my brain right now.
Now that you mentioned games, now I'm wondering, like, are there any EOS punks or EOS NFTs?
We kind of missed the NFT craze. I would love to see some NFT action on EOS. We're talking to the Facings team. They've built like a really killer collection manager for EOS. They were one of the first teams to receive a grant when we were doing grants. We've since stopped doing grants.
From the foundation?
Yeah, the foundation was doing a bunch of grants for a while, and Facings was actually a spinoff from Detroit Ledger Technology, and they created a collection manager. So we have a really cool, and then they're building like a premium version on top of that, because everything in the grant program had to be open source and available. So there's some cool work happening there. I can't say that there's like an active and thriving NFT scene on EOS currently, but we're looking forward to it. But at the same time, we're seeing new regulations being proposed in the United States.
It's a lot of promise.
So,
EOS, is it mostly an American, like the foundation, where is it headquartered?
Canada.
Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Labs is based out of Singapore, but I don't know where they're incorporated. I think it's BVI or something like that.
British Virgin Islands. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Yeah. So you're hoping to see a few more NFT projects, some fun stuff. What is the EOS community like? Is it? I don't know. I guess it might be hard to answer that question. Like, can you classify or describe any one chain's community? But
resilient. I mean, like, all right. So, to be perfectly frank, because of our history and because of everything that's happened, we've jettisoned a lot of people. Like a lot of people were like, okay, it's not my idea of a good time. I'm not here for this long grind. I want fast, rewards elsewhere. And so they chased their rewards wherever they were, and so what we kind of ended up with was this like hardcore crew of people that are, deeply invested and willing to like fight through all this uncertainty and keep going. So we have a pretty interesting crew of people, but we need to onboard fresh blood now. We're coming into a new era where that's actually where we're kind of referring to it as a new era on EOS, because we're launching a staking rewards program. We've got this whole new tokenomics thing. We can finally kind of really like, I feel like before we had 1 foot in the old world, 1 foot in the new world. Now we've just fully stepped into this new world, and we're kind of like, EOS is open for business, where you can build cool stuff on EOS now. There's just all sorts of fun opportunity, but communities are hard to force. You can't force people anywhere. Yeah. So I think our goal right now is to just make EOS available, exciting, fun, create new economic opportunities, and just see what happens.
Can you comment on like where EOS is as far as, I don't know, number of developers, number of projects, like kind of where it, because there's all these other, EOS is back. Hey, EOS is back. Great. So now we've got all these chains. So if I'm a developer, and I'm looking at chains ranging from Near to Solana to Ethereum to I don't know, whatever. There's so many new ones. Does EOS have something that would attract me, and does And has it attracted a fair number of developers and projects?
I can't actually speak to the current number of developers, but I'm sure those statistics are not too hard to find on GitHub. I mean, it's like our team is the core development of the software stack, but in terms of like other projects developing on EOS, I mean, I've noticed a few lately chime up in the comments because RAM is getting a little expensive, and so we're starting to see developers that are using RAM kind of come out of the woodwork being like, hey, I was building, but we have an ecosystem page, and you can see all the different projects that are currently building on EOS or have some sort of affiliation with EOS. It's not a small number.
Well, EOS had a head start, right?
We had a head start. When we lost some people along the way, we've gained new people. I mean, a lot of people find that they can't build their application anywhere else without dealing with a bunch of like difficulty. So it's like we've kind of, apart from like the SDKs, which we lacked and now we have back again, you know, I mean, I've interviewed a number of developers, and we could just do like a I don't know what they call it when you play back like a video clip of all the people saying the same thing over and over again. But there's no small number of developers that are like, you know, I couldn't build this anywhere else. I had to use EOS. And
so it still stands out as a pretty unique chain.
I mean, I think if you're looking for something that's really efficient and low cost and easy to, well, it's easy now. It was very difficult before to interact with. You're hard pressed to find other blockchains that can kind of carry the same load as EOS, and we've been there for a long time. We just didn't capitalize on it we didn't have like a big treasury to be like, you know, marketing like you've never seen before and all this stuff to like bring people in and light that fire. So that's what we got to do now. I mean, it's kind of interesting too with RAM. There's a lot of speculation in the RAM market too. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because we've seen big applications that have been really RAM intensive now that RAM has gone up in price quite a bit. And so for people that don't know, on EOS we have everything is written to RAM, not everything, but like anything that you need ready access to is stored in RAM. So RAM is one of the key resources, and you could think about EOS as like a dual token economy. There's EOS and there's RAM, and really so far RAM has only been, well, really fundamentally it's only able to be purchased through EOS using a Bancor relay. So if you want to buy system RAM, you just buy it from the pool. And
is that unique to EOS that you would have to buy RAM?
It's pretty unique. There may be some other projects doing something similar, but as far as I know, it's very unique. The way that we store data is very flexible. There's multiple different data types. It's really effective for like large amounts of data. There's like on Ethereum, for instance, they have the way that they map data is very rigid, and it's like everything has to go in a single serving bucket.
Okay.
Whereas EOS, you can store large chunks of data. You can chop it up however you want. I can't remember. There's like 7 different data types. So that's one of our kind of key value propositions, is actually like the way we serve up memory is actually pretty unique and valuable. And so seeing that, and we'll get into like one of the applications of this is like a new scaling solution for Bitcoin called XSAT, which is going to use a massive chunk of EOS RAM to basically serve up Bitcoin's state, so that
all right, I'm trying to understand this.
Let's not quite jump into XSAT yet, because I'll be hard pressed to even just give like the proper introduction. But
what I'm trying to conceive is how RAM works.
Yeah.
How the fact that it's a separate property that one can purchase.
So like with memory, you're either writing to disk or you're writing to RAM. There's probably like various gradations between those two things. There's swap and all sorts of, like any PhD in like memory is gonna like chew me out after this interview.
Sure.
But let's just say like there's RAM and there's disk. And there's a finite, so like anything that's available in RAM on the network, like let's say I store something in RAM and I want like instant access to it. I gotta pay for that spot. It's like real estate.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reserving this chunk of memory on a distributed database, and I just want instant access to whenever I want it. There's only so much memory that the network can functionally support, because every single node on EOS needs to have that same memory, and not just block producers. The whole network, needs to.
And that's true for any blockchain. There's going to be this memory demand.
It's different on different blockchains, but don't ask me to explain exactly how they're doing it. But this is like kind of one of the core value propositions of like the way that EOS functions to deliver like really fast, like very low latency memory, like transactions and stuff like that. I need to get my comparative memory analysis down for other blockchains and how they manage memory, but it's pretty unique. I know we've been comparing it to Ethereum for an article I'm writing, and it's very different on Ethereum. But it's just more of a matter of like, it's more rigid on Ethereum. I think when EOS was developed, it was developed kind of by database nerds who were like, no, we need flexible data types. We need to map it this other way. We need to like have more flexibility in the way we write and retrieve data. So we just kind of came up with this really novel, not we, but the engineers came up with a really novel solution for RAM. So there's a finite amount of RAM in the network. Currently it's 390 gigabytes technically. It's like there's a gigabyte and a gigabyte. I'm not going to get into the difference, but it's the difference between like consumer electronics and the way that computer science measures memory. So like
a nautical mile.
There's 1,024. Yeah, there's 1,024 bits in a byte. In a kilobyte. So but anyway, so there's 390 total currently. EOS launched with 64 gigs of RAM, and then at a certain point they decided to, the block producers and B1 decided to begin inflating the RAM supply. And so RAM inflated by, I think, 1 kilobyte, I don't remember. It was like X amount of bytes per block, which we have a half-second block time, so that's pretty fast, for the last 5-6 years. And it just, this past December, stopped. A proposal was put up and then passed to stop the inflation of RAM, because the network really, we're approaching limits in terms of like how much data we can reasonably ask the entire network to basically have on hand, and be able to like dish up at a moment's notice. And so it kind of creates, it's really one of the first DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure networks, or you can think of it as an RWA.
Does it limit the, I don't understand this stuff super well, so just bear with me, but does it limit the capacity of the network if you stop adding RAM to it?
Well, I mean, in a sense, yeah. I mean, but that's not really, the limit isn't really us stopping to add, it's the actual hardware infrastructure, which is actually currently less than what's available. So there's like 390, I think it's like 90% spoken for currently. There's allocated RAM, so I can purchase RAM and not use it.
Yeah. I
can purchase RAM and use it. That's consumed RAM. And so it's not really a problem if I purchase it and don't consume it. I can also consume it and then free it up again too. So I don't need to I can release that RAM back to the pool.
I'm thinking of this like a room. It's like, oh, we have capacity for 100 people and there's 90 people in there. Oh, there's only room for 10 more, and then the room's full and that's that. It's not like that with this?
Oh, no, it is very much like that. Like, there's only so much memory able to be served up total by the EOS network currently. So that's why you're seeing this sort of speculation about the value of RAM as a DePIN real-world asset type thing. Because the network is, it approached limits where you can't reasonably, in today's current like if it was just block producers and that's all you needed to worry about, we could go way higher. But we need all the exchanges, all the other people running full nodes to be able to serve up the same thing. So we can't like just ask the whole world to run like 400, gigabytes memory just like ready to go.
So that's why you have to have a cap on the...
Yeah, there's like limits to... We have to bring everyone with us. We can't just be like, yeah, these 21 nodes have all the memory, because then everyone else, like the state, won't be the same, essentially. Like we need to have like the network at a level that the entire network can maintain. So like the least common denominator, I suppose.
Gosh, so is that a constant like balancing act blockchains have to address? Like, well, we can't have the size of we can't have our nodes be too bogged down with the gargantuan size of the network, or it won't be practical for them, and then we'll have less decentralization because there'll be fewer of them capable of housing or managing.
It is a balance to strike, especially when it comes to decentralization and stuff like that too. And that's been one of the considerations to keep it on the lower end, because the practicality for most people of spinning up a full node on EOS starts to get a little challenging once you reach a certain point in terms of like the hardware required. So there's actually some changes with the new consensus algorithm that are coming out that's going to split up the role of block producer into more than one type, and it may have some impact on the way that we're able to manage memory over time. And there've been a lot of optimizations to the way that RAM is used on the network. So we've even seen with like Leap 5 like some pretty big optimizations to the way. So there's ways we can keep getting more out of the same amount that we're now using. And even with these big like Upland, for instance, recently, because RAM became so expensive on EOS, they went through and looked at their RAM consumption and audited it, and then they're like, oh, we don't need, we can optimize so that we're not storing all this in RAM because we really don't need to. And they were able to free up a huge chunk of RAM and sell it back to the network essentially, and then it was available again. So we're going to see, I think, these cycles of like contracts optimizing for better usage of data, and then who knows what the future holds for different types of data, I guess. But yeah, it's a finite amount. It's not all consumed. It's not even all allocated. So we have a ways to go until like all of it's allocated. But it gets quite expensive as it goes up because it's on the Bancor curve. So as you approach 100% usage, it's like an infinitely larger number per kilobyte, or like it's priced in EOS per kilobyte.
Yeah.
And then WRAM is a system wrapped RAM that is being made available for third-party exchanges to list because it's one-to-one with RAM. So for a WRAM to exist, it has to have locked up and that's at the system level. So you will start to see WRAM traded on third-party exchanges, and this is all. I might as well get into the tokenomics.
Yeah. Let's get more nerdy.
Yeah, we can get even more nerdy. So like everyone, like I've already kind of established, like EOS didn't really have a treasury. We kind of came at this like very different order of events than most blockchains did. The new tokenomics basically said, let's take this future 10 billion supply and cap it at 2.1 billion, effectively burning like 80% of this future inflation, saying like 2.1, and further let's mint up to that 2.1 from where we are now and establish a set of buckets that we can use to fund the network, and that's it. That's like all the tokens that will ever be on EOS now. So we established different buckets, one for the block producers, one for staking rewards, one for middleware, which we'll get into.
So all the tokens are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Minted.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Whereas before we were kind of running on this 3% inflation, 2% to the foundation and labs, and 1% to the block producers. Now, no more inflation. Essentially, we've reached our max supply now.
So there's a capped amount.
There's only a certain amount liquid, and then the rest of it is coming out on a halving cycle every 4 years, like Bitcoin. So all these buckets. So like take the ENF for instance. Our income is more or less about the same as it was before the tokenomics change, but in 4 years it gets cut in half. So we're getting the contract is sending a certain amount of EOS to the EOS Network Foundation, to EOS Labs, to these other buckets, to block producers, and then in 4 years that gets cut in half, and then 4 years it gets cut in half again for 24 years. So EOS is essentially betting on, being able to pull off this reversal in under 4 years, because otherwise, we got real problems on our hand. But yeah, like the foundation's budget is going to get cut in half in 4 years.
So there's a wallet with all these not pre-mined, but minted tokens.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a series of contracts and accounts.
Yeah. And then it just spits out, according to the smart contract, out to the foundation. Or wherever. Yeah,
there's like an insanely complex diagram I can show people to make their eyes just glaze over if you want to see it all in excruciating detail. But it's all laid out, and there was a proposal. It was discussed and debated heavily, and some slight tweaks were made to it, mostly with the permission structure and how it's all set up, and it passed on June 1st. So
who voted? Token holders? Or
15 of, I think we had more than 15. I can't remember, actually. That's a good question. It was like 18 of 21 or 17 of 21 block producers.
Okay.
So that's
nodes.
That's nodes. Yeah, that's what you need. Well, the top 21.
Yeah.
Basically, a super majority.
Do you call them the council?
No, not really.
No, the Great Council.
We should probably come up with a cool term like that, but right now it's just the BPs. We have meetings with the BPs.
The British Petroleums.
Oh God, that's not a great association necessarily. Yeah, like you're making my brain go all lateral on me now.
Well, I'm just trying to think about other BPs.
There's already enough ambiguity in the space. We don't need more acronyms, but
yeah.
But essentially, 15 of 21 block producers have to sign to make any major changes to the network like this. That's the main permission structure, without getting into the weeds.
I love the. I don't know if I love it or not. I'm just intrigued by the separation of RAM and how that compares to other chains. I know we talked about it, but I just think that's such a cool development. And you told me about that, a couple months ago when we were talking about it, and how it was just. Could you buy RAM before they stopped the inflation, or was that just an open market that they?
It's always been available to be purchased.
You've always had to buy a little bit of RAM. It's kind of like the gas.
Yeah, each
think of it as like gas. You need to have a little.
Or each account consumes like 3 kilobytes, 3 kilobytes of RAM.
It's an interesting kind of I mean, in some ways it's a benefit, in some ways it's not, right? Because now you got to spend more money because RAM's more expensive because they stopped the inflation of it. So now to get it is more expensive, and there have been speculators that have driven up the price.
Yep.
So now if you want to develop on it, do a transaction, it's going to be more expensive. But the good news is that because of the RAM open market and the value of it being high, and now the WRAM, it just means that the network itself is much more valuable, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see the price of RAM stabilize at a place where, eventually, wherever the market determines it to be at.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, this isn't available now, but there's RAM leasing kind of in the works. So there's a couple of different approaches to RAM leasing.
whole other economy being built
that I've heard articulated. But
this is what I love about blockchain. It's whole other potentials for economic activity.
Yeah, so you could theoretically lease RAM, and because you don't want to pay for it and you just want memory available on this network. But when you're not using it anymore, if you just decide you don't want to use it anymore, or if you stop paying for it, you could just get evicted. Your memory would get evicted.
So do you need to...
If you wanted to own it and have definite, for sure, 100% rights to that memory forever, you could just own it.
So does memory become like just the price of doing business, and it's an ongoing expense? So if I'm going to write a smart contract or have some sort of game or something like that where EOS is constantly being used...
Under a leasing model.
Am I going to have to consistently be buying RAM in order to keep it going?
Well...
I don't know how that works.
If you're trying to own the RAM and your application is going to continue increasing its consumption of RAM, you may...
Or just the activity on the program. Or would that be for users to pay, not me, as a developer?
Well,
like if I make a game like, what was it called, Upland?
Well, Upland or Shipload is the new one coming from Greymass, yeah.
So like Shipload makes a game, and it's going to require a lot of activity on the blockchain, so there's going to be a lot of RAM needed.
They're buying all the RAM for the users.
They are.
Yeah, so they're just abstracting away all that stuff.
And will it be a one-time purchase, or will there be constant needs for more and more RAM, not just as the game grows, but as just like kind of ongoing expenses?
I don't know.
For more just...
Yeah.
Residual.
I don't know what they've budgeted personally for Shipload for how much RAM it's consuming for the game, or if they expect that it will consume more RAM. They've been really smart about how they designed it so that I don't think it uses more than it needs.
I just wonder too if the community was like, we don't like this.
Procedurally generated. That's the...
that's the AI.
It's procedurally... You know it's AI, but it's procedurally generated game world.
Okay.
Anyway. Just popped into my brain.
And is it like a Minecraft where everyone you start it and then you kind of build your own world per like attempt to
I think the world
play, or is it this universal world for everyone?
I think it's the same world for everyone, and then you can go out and explore it and
I see
and build your little outpost in it. But it's like the world is just procedurally generated.
And so in that sense, the developers don't know how it's going to look.
No.
Not just because of what's built on it, but because of how it's built. Whether there's a lake or whether there's a hill or whatever.
Right.
I don't know if it's that kind of...
Well, it's space, so it'd be like planets and quasars and things. It should be a cool game. People should check it out and see how it works. Because you'll be able to access it just on the web without any knowledge of blockchain, or you can come at it from the blockchain side, and both sides are totally doable.
Okay.
So you don't even need a wallet.
Is it going to be a mobile game, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume they would have some sort of mobile access, but they may be focusing on one or the other more first. Probably like desktop. I would imagine, like browser. Probably a web app primarily. But yeah, RAM.
And EOS will be the currency in that game, or will they have their own token?
Scrap.
Oh, that's the token.
Yeah.
Built on EOS.
Yeah.
So you would buy it. You'd get some scrap by going on EOS Authority, or I don't know, some sort of EOS.
I don't even think you need to do
interface.
That. I mean, you can mine scrap now. And that's like a whole other story. Greymass built this system, or Aaron built this system called droplets. So you can actually stake RAM into the droplets system, and then you can mine tokens. It's kind of like a new airdrop feature for EOS. So if you have excess RAM that you've bought but aren't consuming, you can use it to mint like an inscription, essentially. Droplets are kind of like an inscription. They're unique, so it kind of like gives you like the more droplets you have, the greater your odds of getting whatever token it is you're trying to get. So it's not exclusive to Scrap. Like anyone else could come and use the droplet system to do like a fair token distribution. I mean, fair insofar as you need RAM to like opt in to receive the tokens, but it doesn't cost you anything except for like locking up that RAM temporarily. So it's kind of that's neither here nor there, but it's like it's an interesting new token distribution method that is pretty cool.
And eventually you'll just be able to buy it on an exchange.
But yeah, I mean, you can buy scrap right now on DeFi Box. It's listed as a token.
Okay.
But I don't think most people entering the game from like the web, from a browser, are going to need to even think about it. It'll just be in their account. They won't even know that they have a...
I like that you said that, and something earlier you said too I liked. It was, you won't even know it's on the blockchain. Like, that's kind of the point, I think.
Yeah.
You know, blockchain will be at its best, or it's functional when people don't know it's even being used, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not interfering. It's just back there, making it work more efficient and better.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's the general
cryptocurrency.
idea. I mean, you know, for now we're in this phase where it's such a new technology, and it's been part of so many different people's like lives and the way that they're interacting with the blockchains themselves. But in the future, with the application layer being mature enough, I don't think you're going to need to deal with that too much, unless you want to. It depends what your goals are, right? Like, if you want that level of custodianship over your own assets, you're going to still want to manage your own private keys and stuff. And I think the tools to do that and make that less terrifying for the average user are coming closer. So like, if you want custody or partial custody, or you want an MSIG with your friends on it, so that if you lose your private key, you can kind of like reconstitute it somehow. There are people working on these different solutions, but for the most part, for most applications, I don't think people want to have to think about. They want to just sign in through an application on their phone, or at the worst, they want to have to remember a password or use some social sign-in with an email. They don't want to have to think about owner keys and active keys and all this stuff. And that's like such an impediment to adoption of blockchain.
Yeah.
So like, back to Upland, for instance. Like, Upland's the same way. It's like a giant metaverse, land-based real estate sort of game. There's a lot of different features to Upland now, but when you start using Upland, you don't even know you're using blockchain. But if you stick with it and you keep playing with it, eventually they go, hey, by the way, you have an EOS account, and here it is. Now you've been around for a while, and we think you're like a real user, a real person. There is an account on the other side of this, and if you want, you can access it. Here's how. But they don't bring you in that way. They don't first show you all the ugly, difficult levers, and they just kind of hold your hand. And then and I think that's a smart way to do it. Like, if you have enough assets at risk, eventually, like, you start playing. Maybe it's like a pay-to-play game where you're just like throwing some dollars in on a monthly basis or something to play a game, or whatever you do on your mobile app. But maybe the in-game items have value, and then maybe eventually you start accruing a bit of a treasury in that account. Like, maybe the application just tells you, hey, you've got like $1,000 worth of assets in here. You might want to start thinking about you might want to store your private keys. Oh, I have private keys? Yeah, like, here's what they are. Here's how you store them.
I see.
And then from there,
yeah, you could have some fun too, wrapping that into the gameplay.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Is it EOS 2.0, or is there some kind of unveiling of a new a dawning of a new era of EOS? It sounds like there's a little bit of that intonation.
Yep.
But then then what that means too for users, like and which users you're fishing for. So, are you still going for that enterprise angle that EOS was originally designed for, or is it more the games and things like that? I'd like to know a little more about EOS strengths and community. There are regions in the world that are more popular with EOS. Like, I find out how huge Tron is, and I'm always surprised, because I hear nothing about Tron in the U.S.
Oh, sure.
And yet it's still enormous.
Justin Sun.
But I guess it's all on the other side of the world. I don't know. There's
a lot to unpack there. EOS is in this really interesting, like I would call it like almost like an inflection point, for the chain. We do have a sort of a rebrand coming along with this hard fork. So EOS is switching to this new consensus algorithm called Savannah. And at the same time, we're going to launch a new website. It's going to be a lot more useful than our current website is. We've spent a lot of time working on it. And there's a new logo. So I kind of don't expect the chestahedron to go away overnight.
The what?
But the chestahedron is the symbol of
chestahedron.
Yeah, Frank Chester.
Okay.
This sort of legendary, like sacred geometry guy, developed the chestahedron, which is the symbol of EOS. All the way back to the beginning. The community. That's like a whole other weird story with IP and stuff, but. We're kind of moving into a new direction with the visual identity, and then I anticipate more of a narrative shift as well around EOS that will be very welcome. Because it's hard to change the story that you're telling about who you are and what's going on when fundamentally nothing's actually changed. But now fundamentally things really have actually changed. We've kind of flipped the script. We're in a very different position than we were 2.5 years ago almost 3 years ago now, when the EOS Network Foundation launched. The new tokenomics is kind of creating a whole set of new opportunities for people that want to come into EOS. It's not a big deal in crypto to have staking rewards, but we just never did. So for us, it's kind of a big deal. And initially, there's 250 million EOS as part of this new tokenomics that's allocated for staking rewards, for instance. And this is programmatic system level staking rewards, protocol level. So you come in and there's going to be a really simple UI. If you have EOS, you can lock up your EOS. It's a 21-day lockup. There's no requirement to vote. That's changed. And you'll be able to start earning APY on your EOS that's locked up. Not to get into the economics too much, but because EOS has never had staking rewards at a protocol level, it's been very easy to short EOS. It's been very cost efficient. But when the protocol is establishing like a base,
so it's like a defense against malicious traders.
And it's also just a benefit that most other blockchains have provided for active participants. So if you're active and you're willing to lock up your EOS for 21 days, you're going to get...
That's not very long either.
No, it's not that long of a lockup. And you're earning yield from the moment you put it in all the way through until you take it back out again. I think it's like 30... I should have this number in front of me, but it's like 30... Oh, actually, I might have the number in front of me. It's like 30-some million per year EOS. So, like, I think it's like 80-some thousand EOS a month flowing into the stake and rewards pool.
Okay.
So the APY is going to be just directly correlated to the number of people staking. So it's just a fixed amount of tokens flowing in. That's a value that's going to be set by the block producers, but for now it's like fixed for the next 4 years. And that bucket also gets cut in half every 4 years. But for the first 4 years, it's going to be pretty juicy, I think, in terms of staking rewards, depending on how many EOS is in the pool. So that's something to look forward to in terms of like talking about which new users coming into the ecosystem. Like, there's a carrot.
Okay, and they can access that through the EOS website or through their EOS Authority or Anchor wallet. The staking.
It'll initially be through our own UI that the EOS Network Foundation is putting up, because it's just brand new. It's part of Rex 2.0, which no one needs to think about, but it's a very old piece of it's an old system contract that we've kind of repurposed for staking rewards. So we just call it the EOS Vault or whatever. But We'll just have a dead simple UI where as long as you have an EOS wallet, you just sign in, stake, and you're off to the races.
Okay.
I guess. And then eventually, I anticipate like blocks.io, EOS Authority, all these other block explorers that allow you to sign in with a wallet will enable that functionality. It's just that it's so new, no one's had a chance to integrate it yet besides us because we're building it. But we'll just have a dead simple page that anyone can use. And I did want to touch on I guess we're talking about like other users and like how we're going to bring in new people. The other big liquid bucket besides staking or okay, I'm jumping all over the place, but there's a lot. So staking rewards, that's 250 million. Then there's 350 million for RAM market making. So just like developing the RAM market, helping to get liquidity on different exchanges with WRAM and stuff like that. And there's 35 million that has been set aside to just direct purchase RAM. The first two tranches of that have already been purchased. That's for system RAM, so the network will own enough RAM to help do whatever it needs to do, subsidize other projects. We have RAM is transferable now, so that's kind of interesting. So if theoretically anyone could take payment in RAM, or if it was a project that needed RAM in order to function, there's ways that it could be transferred to them. So that's kind of interesting. But that 35 million will be entering the RAM pool essentially. So 35 more million EOS entering, and then the 350 million for RAM market making. That's also liquid. But in addition to that, there's 15 million that was set aside for middleware. So like UI UX improvements. One of the difficulties, one of the areas where people have had a hard time with EOS in the past, and maybe you've experienced this too, is the wallet experience is a little different from what most people are used to. And again, you have to figure out how to deal with those owner key, active key, stuff like that. So the GrayMass team, now having completed a Wharf kit and the SDKs and all this stuff, is now turning their attention. They've been entrusted with the first 5 million of that 15 million EOS in order to start building UI UX improvements for EOS. So I expect we'll see one of the first things they're working on right now is it's MetaMask integration, the Snap. So you'll be able to just have a browser extension, log in for EOS essentially. There's something called Snaps or Snap on MetaMask, which they've figured out how to utilize for EOS. So, and then in addition to that, like light accounts, we've never had light accounts before. People are always like, why do I have to pay for an EOS account? Well, it's because it's consuming resources, and if we didn't rate limit it somehow, that would just be massive abuse. We would just create like unlimited accounts, and each account consumes memory. So we're back to that whole finite RAM problem. But with light accounts, you could theoretically do it like you do with Bitcoin or many other projects where you have an address. It's not really taking up any space in the network yet. I think you can even send to it, but the second you want to do something with it, and this happens apparently in other networks, and I never even knew about it, but like you can have that address, you just have a public key, private key, and you can send a balance to it, and as soon as you send to that address that you just kind of created out of thin air, then it takes that fee for the account creation from that first thing. But no one in those other blockchains knows it's happening. It's just a slightly larger fee for that first transfer. With EOS, that we never had that. It's always been like you just have to pay for the account up front, or someone does. So it's been a bit of a sticky point for UI UX experience on EOS. So that hopefully will be solved pretty soon, and then some sort of more universal wallet experience, like a web wallet type type thing, that like lots of different, it won't be an exclusive domain of any single entity on EOS. Like everyone can use it.
What's a good way to follow? I guess if someone's interested, and I see this podcast being great for developers, right? Because we're talking about some technical things that maybe other people who are casually into this industry won't be so super interested in. But people who are developers, like, oh wow, we're doing all these aspects of the blockchain, the way RAM works, this and that. So I hope this gets out to a lot of those minds. But how does one keep track of all this? I mean, just follow EOS on Twitter, or what's a good way to blog, or what?
Twitter's a good place to get the stuff we're excited about. EOS Network FDN. I have to like double check that. We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
And then the EOS Global at EOS _ global is our Telegram. We're pretty much a Telegram community.
Okay, got it.
We've tried Discord, but the community is just rooted in Telegram.
Okay.
And it's ended up being really good because now they have translation tools, and we're very multicultural and multi-language blockchain. So now we can actually all talk to each other using the Telegram translation tools, which is really cool.
Cool.
And so, yeah, that's the main spot on Telegram. However, there are a bunch of, if you're a developer, you're going to want to go to Antelope Devs, and there's a bunch of other Telegram channels. But you can find all those Telegram channels through the directory topic at EOS _ global. Got it. And then our website is eosnetwork.com. And we like our blog has all the latest and happenings. And then the new website will kind of be a complete overhaul, and we'll have a lot more functionality for new people entering the ecosystem. We've paid a lot more attention to the user journey coming in and how to get where you want to go depending on what type of person you are. Whereas the old website was kind of like one size fits all sort of approach. So,
well, I love hearing the specialization, the tailoring of it for more users, the different projects, the different aspects of the chain that are coming up, and it's cool that we've got someone in that executive role for the organization for a major chain right here in the Twin Cities. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks for coming in and enlightening all of us on what's happening. Like, get that real inside look at one of these major projects, and one that's been so storied and around for a long time. Yeah, the stories of our demise are greatly exaggerated. We're still here. Glad to hear it. We're still kicking, and a bit of a renaissance going on. So yeah, I'd encourage other people to come check us out and fire up a conversation, Telegram or wherever. I mean, I'm very easy to reach. It's kind of my job, so anyone can reach out.